Hey everyone, ready to save some serious cash?
I know I am, always.
We're taking a deep dive today into, cutting those monthly expenses.
Love it. Practical tips we can use right away.
Exactly. We're digging into a popular podcast episode, Cutting Expenses it's called,
Okay.
from the Building Financial Success series.
Mhm.
They've got some really interesting ideas in there about how to make those dollars stretch further.
Yeah, and it's funny. So many people think saving money means like giving up everything fun.
Right.
Ugh.
Deprivation Nation, no thanks.
This episode totally gets it, though. It's about like small tweaks.
I'm all about those small tweaks, those little changes that add up big time.
Totally. Like imagine having an extra $100 in your budget every single month.
Oh, the things I could do with an extra $100.
Right. It could be your ticket to less debt, a fun weekend getaway.
Maybe some fancier coffee. I don't know. The possibilities endless.
Exactly. And the first step, which seems obvious, but it's really eye-opening when you actually do it.
Okay, hit me with it. What's this magical first step?
It's tracking where your money is actually going.
Oh, the dreaded budget. I know it's good for me, but
I know, but it doesn't have to be scary. This episode breaks down a few different ways to track your spending. You can, even just do a quick scan of your bank and credit card statements.
right, get the lay of the land.
Exactly. It just gives you that, overall picture of your spending habits.
That doesn't sound so bad.
Right. And if you're more of a tech person, there are, a zillion budgeting apps out there that make it super easy.
Oh, tell me about it. My phone is basically an extension of my brain at this point.
Right. So these apps, they categorize everything for you. Some even give you little alerts, if you're nearing your limit on
That's pretty
something.
handy. Saves me from myself
Yeah,
sometimes.
exactly. Or if you're old school, good old-fashioned pen and paper still works wonders.
I love a good notebook.
Mm.
It's oddly satisfying to write things down.
I totally get it. And honestly, sometimes that act of physically writing it down makes you more mindful of your spending.
It's like, do I really want to write down another takeout coffee in my cute little budget notebook?
Exactly.
All right, so we're tracking our spending. Now what? What do we do with all this newfound financial awareness?
Time to find those savings. And the episode breaks it down into 4 main areas: groceries, entertainment, our least favorite, utilities, and of course, transportation.
Let's do this. Where do we start?
Let's conquer the grocery store, shall we? Because, food, we kind of need it.
It's a necessity, but man, those grocery bills can be brutal.
Tell me about it. The episode, they really highlight meal planning as a superpower.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Tell me more about this meal planning superpower.
It's all about having a plan before you even step foot in that grocery store, a list, so you're not tempted by all the impulse buys.
Well, those impulse buys get me every time. The candy aisle is my weakness.
Right. But with a list, you're like, nope, not today, candy aisle. I've got a plan.
I love it.
Plus, when you plan your meals, you're less likely to waste food, which saves money in the long run, too.
That's a win-win for sure. Less waste, more money for fun things. And speaking of saving money in the long run, this episode also talks about the power of buying in bulk.
Oh, yeah. That's a classic, especially for things you always use.
It's true. I'm never going to say no to a good deal on, toilet paper or laundry detergent.
Right. Those are the things you're going to need eventually, so why not stock up when there's a sale?
Exactly. It's like a little gift to your future self.
Totally. And, okay, speaking of gifts, have you jumped on the cashback app bandwagon yet?
Oh, cashback apps are my jam.
Yep.
It's like getting paid to shop, right?
Right. And some of them are so easy, you literally just scan your receipt after you go to the grocery store.
I know. It's dangerously convenient.
It is. You're putting in minimal effort, but still reaping the rewards.
Okay, but let's be real. Sometimes, as much as we love a good home-cooked meal, sometimes you just got to treat yourself to a restaurant experience.
Oh, absolutely. I'm all about balance. And this episode even says, cutting back on takeout, even just a little bit, can make a big difference.
Oh, I know it. It's so easy to fall into that trap of, oh, it's just one meal, it won't break the bank.
Right. But then those one meals turn into, a weekly habit, and suddenly you're wondering where your dining out budget went.
Exactly. It's all about finding that sweet spot between enjoying those restaurant meals and not totally derailing your budget.
I'm all for it.
All right, so we've tackled groceries. What's next on our list of money-saving missions?
Well, I've got to talk about those energy vampires lurking in our home.
Oh, no, not the energy vampires.
They're sneaky, right? But the episode has some really good tips for keeping our utility bills in check.
Okay, I'm ready to slay some energy vampires. What do we got?
Well, first of all, they talk about just being more mindful of our daily habits.
Okay, like what? Give me an example.
So simple things like, turning off lights when you leave a room or unplugging electronics you're not using.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely guilty of leaving the lights on sometimes.
It happens to the best of us. But those small changes, they can actually add up over time.
Makes sense. Every little bit counts.
Exactly. And speaking of small changes, they also talk about adjusting your thermostat, even just a degree or two, can make a difference in your heating and cooling costs.
Oh yeah, I've heard that before. But does it really make that much of a difference?
It really can, especially if you're consistent about it.
Good to know. I'm always up for saving a few bucks on my energy bill.
Right. And if you're really feeling ambitious, they recommend investing in those energy-efficient light bulbs.
Oh yeah, those fancy LED ones. They're a bit pricier up front though, aren't they?
They can be, but they also last way longer than traditional bulbs.
That's true. And if they use less energy, that's savings in the long run.
Exactly. Okay, ready to switch gears to something a little more, shall we say, mobile?
Let's hit the road.
Uh-huh.
What do they have to say about saving money on transportation?
Well, they're big fans of carpooling, for starters.
Carpooling, the classic money saver. And it's good for the environment too.
Exactly. Two birds, one stone. And even if you can't carpool every day, they talk about just being more strategic about running errands.
Ooh, errand strategy. I like it.
Right, like planning your route so you're not zigzagging all over town, combining errands into one trip.
Makes sense. It's like, why make multiple trips when you can get everything done in one fell swoop?
Exactly. And for those who are feeling really hands-on, they even suggest learning some basic car maintenance yourself.
Oh, like changing your own oil or something.
Exactly. It can be a little intimidating at first, but there are tons of resources out there, like videos and stuff, that walk you through it step by step.
That's true. There's a YouTube tutorial for practically everything these days.
Right. And think of the sense of accomplishment, being able to say, yeah, I changed my own oil.
I do love a good DIY project.
Yeah,
And it's empowering to have those skills.
totally. Okay, but now it's time to face the two biggest expenses that most of us have to deal with: housing and, of course, insurance.
The big kahunas.
Hmm.
These are the ones that can really make or break a budget.
Right.
It's like we're taming those wild horses, getting those expenses under control. But how do we make those changes, stick for the long term?
That's where those good habits come in, the ones this episode talks about. It's not just about cutting back once, it's about, changing your mindset around money altogether.
Mindset is everything, right?
Yeah.
So what kind of mindset shifts are we talking about here?
Well, they talk about this thing called the 24-hour rule. Have you heard of that?
The 24-hour rule. Sounds intriguing. Spill the tea.
So it's pretty simple. Whenever you're about to buy something, especially like a non-essential item, something you don't absolutely need,
Okay, I'm with you.
you just hit the pause button for 24 hours. Don't buy it right away. Give yourself some time to really think about it.
Oh, so it's like a cooling off period for your spending. I
Yeah.
like it.
Exactly. And you'll be surprised how often, after those 24 hours, you realize you didn't really want it that much anyway.
Oh, I totally get that. Impulse buys, man. They get me every time.
Right. But this rule, it's like a superpower against those impulse buys.
Love it. What else do they recommend?
Okay, so another big one is setting really clear savings goals.
Savings goals, the classic. But it's easier said than done, right?
It can be, but this episode, they really emphasize knowing your why. Like, what are you actually saving for? Is it a down payment on a house, a dream vacation, early retirement?
Having a clear vision, right?
Exactly. When you know what you're working towards, it's way easier to say no to those little things that don't really matter in the grand scheme of things.
It's like, do I want that fancy coffee today, or do I want to be sipping margaritas on a beach in Bali next year? Tough choices.
Right. It's all about priorities.
Yeah.
And, okay, one more strategy from the episode I wanted to touch on. Have you ever tried that cash envelope system?
Cash envelope system. I've heard of it, but never actually taken the plunge. It always seemed a little, I don't know, old-fashioned to me.
I know, right? But it can be really effective. Basically, you decide how much you want to spend each month on different categories.
Okay, like groceries, entertainment, that kind of thing.
Exactly. And you literally put that amount of cash in envelopes, one for each category.
So it's like a visual reminder of how much you have left to spend.
Precisely. Once the cash in that envelope is gone, that's it. You're done spending in that category for the month.
Oh, wow. That would definitely make me think twice before making a purchase. No more mindlessly swiping my credit card.
Right. It really makes your spending more tangible.
I love it. This whole conversation has been so eye-opening. It's amazing how, even just talking about these things can shift your perspective.
Right. And that's what I love about this episode. It's not about, shaming people for their spending habits. It's about giving them practical tools and like permission to enjoy the process.
Yes, it's about making mindful choices, not feeling deprived. And on that note, I have a final thought for everyone listening. Imagine this. If you could free up, say, an extra $100, maybe even $200 a month, just imagine the possibilities. What would you do with that extra cash? Would you finally book that trip? Pay down some debt? Invest in your dream project? The possibilities are endless.
So true.
Well, everyone, that's a wrap on another deep dive. We've explored some awesome tips for cutting expenses, boosting those savings, and honestly just feeling more in control of our finances. And remember, it's a journey, not a race. Take what resonates with you, experiment, and find what works best for you. Until next time, happy saving, everyone.